So we're moving on to our third talk now, where we've got Sona Dagesyan, Head of Product and Sales and Monetisation at OLX Group, who'll be talking to us about product teams versus future teams. Please give a very warm welcome.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having me. And I would like to start with thanking the organizer of this beautiful event, because 2 decades back from now, we could not even imagine that there will be a dedicated conference for women in technology, with 250 speakers and with more than 4,000 participants. This is the reality. This is happening. And this is a very big milestone achieved, so thank you for that. I also want to warmly welcome every one of you, the ones joining online, as well as the ones here in person. After the 2 years of COVID and staying at home, it's really great to have this occasion to gather together and to discuss important topics of the industry. And the ones I'll be speaking about today is the difference between the product and the feature teams. The topic that unfortunately doesn't get enough visibility and enough awareness, but the topic that is very important in case we want to create empowered teams and great innovative products. And so that you know a little bit more about myself, I've been doing product management for 15 years. And currently, I work for OLX, and I help them with the real estate industry vertical. And you could imagine that buying or selling a property is, in most of the cases, once-in-a-lifetime event. Therefore, we also try to democratize the whole industry to make sure every single buyer can afford and find their dream home in a short period of time. And same way, every home seller is able to find a very caring buyer, the one that would care about the roses in the garden the same way that they do. And imagining the whole home buying and selling process online, you can imagine that's a difficult one. So we really try to get there. However, my product experience started long ago, even earlier than I knew that has a name. In 1991, and unfortunately my country has undergone the war at that time, I've been going to school. And every time I would come home, I would have to do my homework under the candlelight. And therefore you see the candles on the slide. And soon I realized that if this goes like that, the candles are going to become a scarce resource very soon. And I was really worried about that, having no opportunity to do my homework. And what I started doing is going through the neighbors, knocking their doors, and asking for all the leftovers of their candles. What I would do afterwards, I would create the new candles. But soon I also realized the ones I've made myself were not very sustainable. So I pulled in my friends, and then we started experimenting with thick candles, with thin candles, and then we would all gather together to do the homework under the same candle to save more for the future. That's how we survived. And I'm coming from Armenia, a small land. I haven't finished any top university at that time, and I made it. So it's all within us. We need to believe in that, we need to fight hard for that, and we can make it happen. Thank you. So today, the topic I'll be discussing with you is the difference between the product and the feature teams and what really makes a good product manager. And there is more than that. Like usually we have heard about the to-dos of the product manager, prioritizing, stakeholder management, competitive analysis, and that's really all into the core of the product management. Don't get me wrong, that's all in there. However, in my understanding, the skills that make you really a good product manager are a little bit different. And those are the ones I'll be speaking about today. So The first and the foremost, what makes you a great product manager is the ability to think. And to think about the problems that are everywhere, the problems of the people. And if you don't have that ability to see the problems and you don't care about solving those problems, that would not make you a good product manager. The second one is the curiosity, because the way you approach the problem and the way you try to solve it is what it makes to the business. And here is my favorite quote from Marty Kagan. Like, the great product manager is able to solve the problem the way it also serves the business needs. So this is something that you need to train. The third one is about the integrity. Because the products we want to build, we want them to be sustainable and scalable. We want to be honest with our customers. We don't want to lie. So this is also a core part of it. Once we create the products, let's make sure we do it in the right way. The fourth one is about managing ambiguity. There is a lot of complexity in the product world, and especially the last 2 years were a good example of that, like having the COVID hit. What would be the impact of that in the business? Or currently, with super rocket high interest rates, what's the impact of that in the business? This is all part of the product manager role, to understand and to manage that ambiguity. And the last one is the competencies. So make sure whenever you join an organization or a company, you read closely what's the mission and the vision statement of that company. If there is something that really motivates you to be part of that change, if you are really capable to make that change to help the organization to reach to the vision statement. If that's something that really motivates you, if you are certain that you want to be part of that particular change, then definitely go for it. And I mean, I don't want you to read through the slide, I know it's a long one, but that also shows you what is the scope of the product manager, right? So beside working closely with the engineering and with the design, what the product manager does is also meeting the finance team, discussing all the P&L and the budget, meeting with the marketing and discussing the alternative traffic sources, meeting legal and understanding the new law and regulations, the compliance. So it's very complex. It's really complex and challenging. And does this remind you the role of somebody else in the organization? To me, it does. And that somehow recalls the role of the CEO. Of course, at a lower scale, but still a good product manager has to have an understanding of all aspects of the business, to be able to connect the dots, what I discussed with the legal, what I discussed with marketing, what I discussed with sales, to connect the dots and to make sure that the product that we are shipping is viable. And this doesn't really mean, and I don't want to bring that message, that being a product manager and acting as a mini CEO is to be a boss of anyone. No. It's about to explain that the role is really complex and challenging. And I mean, you would be asking now, okay, how to train those skills, right, if one doesn't have those? And I'm gonna maybe disappoint some of you, but CSPO trainings won't help. They are still good, and I don't say I don't recommend them. They are still good if you want to learn the agile methodologies, the ceremonies, and the rituals. Of course, go for them. They are helpful. But if you want to become a really good product manager, these trainings won't help you. However, there are still techniques that will help you, right? And one of those is generally practicing the 5 whys question. So once you have a problem, asking the question why 5 times, you would come to the root cause of the problem. And once you identify the root cause of the problem, it's easier to find a good solution to it. So please make sure you continuously ask yourself the why question. The second advice I would give you is about working in a cross-functional environment. It's very difficult to find the solutions alone. However, it's very important and it's doable to find the right solutions when you work in a cross-functional environment, in a team. And therefore, especially the trio of the engineering, design, and product is really crucial. So do all your discoveries, talk to your future customers together, learn from each other, challenge each other ideas, say no to certain things to be able to find the right path. And the third advice I would give is to get yourself a coach. It's very important. It's very underestimated, but getting a coach would really help to get a sparring partner with whom you would understand where to improve, how to get better, what things you are doing good, and what you can do better later. You can find a coach either in your organization or elsewhere. However, definitely go for that. And now, remember that every time you get the skills, you need to be able to apply those, because it's not only about learning, but it's also about applying those skills. Now, I would like to go to the topic of the product versus the feature teams. And in order to do this more interactive, I would also need the help of every one of you. And I will tell you the rules, so please be seated yet. However, what the exercise I would do, I would like to take a snapshot of today to understand how many of us work in the feature teams and how many of us work in the product teams. As you have seen, I'm a mathematician, so I would like to really bring it to a number. So the rule of the games are easy. I would ask everyone to stand up. I would then read the questions, and if you answer any of the questions with the yes, then you are free to take your seat back. And I mean, you've been sitting since the early morning, so maybe this small exercise would help you. So I would really ask you to help me and stand up. Thank you. So very easy questions. And very easy rule of the game. Once you answer the question, even one of those, with yes, you already are good to take your seat back. So first question. Have you ever worked with the roadmaps that have already prioritized items and features? If that's the case, please already take your seats back. Thank you. Next question. Have you ever been assigned a problem to solve with only a business focus? Like your manager coming to you and telling, we don't reach the budget, can we increase the prices or something like that, which has only business focus, no customer focus. Okay. Next one. Is there a role confusion in your organization between the product manager, the developer, and the designer? Okay, we're getting there. And the last one. Last time you did the OKR planning, the things you agreed, was it like a list of features that you need to deliver, or there were like measurable key results? Okay. The exercise is done, and if I'm taking the right snapshot of the moment, less than 10% of us working in the product teams. You can all take your seats. Thank you for helping me again. I couldn't make it without your help. Thank you. And that's unfortunately the reality. So less than 10% of the companies and organizations work with empowered product teams. And just to bring an example and to differentiate for you what is the differences between those teams, in tech companies we have three kinds of teams. There are the delivery teams that have a lot of developers, and they are also called the dev teams. They don't have a dedicated designer. They have a product owner, not a product manager. And these teams simply create output. Then there are the feature teams who call themselves the cross-functional teams, but they are not one, because here again you have the team of developers, you have a dedicated product designer, you have a product manager, or at least someone with the title product manager, however acting more as a project manager. And these teams serve the business, they don't serve the customer, and it's like a feature factory, right? One, the next, the third one. This is what is called the feature teams. And then we have the third team, the really empowered product teams. And here you have the team of developers, you have the product designer, you have the product manager, but the real one. And here in these teams, people work collaboratively. They work in a cross-functional way. They are there to solve complex problems, because engineers, product managers, and designers, they are creators. Like if we are utilizing the engineers for coding only, we are only using the 50% of their brains. Why we are doing that? And these teams are the only teams who are producing outcome, not the output, but the outcome. Every time we are shipping or creating a new product, we have those 4 risks. And the first risk is the value risk. Like, will the users use this? Will they recommend it? Will they pay for it? There is the value risk. Then there is the second risk, which is about the usability. Is our product easy and simple to use? Because our customers get lazy, right? They want intuitive flows. Then there is the third risk about the feasibility. Will we be able to ship that product with the technological stack we have, with the people we have, and with the time we have available? And there is the fourth risk about the viability risk. Is this compliant? Is this okay with all the aspects of the business? And usually in the feature teams, product manager has 0 responsibility about the value risk. It sits with somebody else, with commercial, with marketing, with somebody else, but not product. And in the really empowered product teams, what happens is that this responsibility is shared between the triangle. So the product manager bears the responsibility of the value and the viability risks. The designer bears the responsibility of the usability. And the tech lead bears the responsibility of the feasibility. And this way, you all take the ownership and take the responsibility to create an innovative, a scalable, a great product. While in the feature teams, it's really complex and really messy. So if you realized you are in a feature team, how to transition to a product team? And definitely, here again, I need to disappoint you, but the processes won't help. It's good to have great processes. They are helping a lot. However, for this transition, it's not definitely enough. However, what will really help you is to hire and develop the right people. And the right people doesn't necessarily mean you need to hire and develop people from the top universities or 10Xers, but hire diverse people with high potential, the people with the willingness, the ones that really like your vision statement, that they want to be part of the change. And once you are lucky enough to hire those people, don't tell them what to do. The second thing is about having strong leadership and management. It's really core, because the great leaders are able to recognize the greatness in everyone and to create an environment where the greatness can emerge. And very often there is also a confusion between the role of the leadership and the management. And here I would like to also kind of differentiate. It doesn't mean that a leader cannot be a manager or vice versa. However, the leadership is there for the company vision, for the strategy, which is the path, how we'll go to that vision. It's all about the principles. Like every time you have a buyer and a seller, how to make the right decision is not only about monetizing and revenues, but setting certain principles. And of course, setting also the priorities, because the problems out there are many, but we need to prioritize and tackle them one by one. And the management is there for hiring the right talents. It doesn't sit with HR only, right? It's all about the hiring managers to find the right talents. After you have hired the right people, it's also about coaching and developing them to make sure they are not leaving your organization in a short period of time. And it's about the OKRs, setting the certain objectives. Because, I mean, you can imagine, right? An OKR framework here is super helpful. If you have multiple product teams, how to make sure that everyone is contributing to the same goal. You need to really set an objective cross-functionally and share it, cross-company, and share it with everyone. Then your tribes will figure out their half-year OKRs that contributes to the initial goal, and then your product teams will be able to also create their own quarterly objectives. That way, if you have multiple product teams, you can really make sure that you don't create chaos, but you rather create awareness about where we want to get. And this helps to everyone to contribute to the same company goal, which helps eventually the company to reach their vision statement. The third one is about then letting the people to collaborate and empowering them. So once you are able to hire the right people, you gave them the focus area, let them collaborate. The teamwork is there to create innovative and great products. And every one of us is born with our intrinsic motivation. So let's not kill that, right? So let the teams get together, work in an empowered way, and make it happen. And the last one is definitely the time. And I'll be very honest with you. Even in our organization, this doesn't come easy. Switching from the feature teams to the product teams is not an easy exercise. And a lot of organizations have for them also get an external help for that. It's very difficult to convince the management to step back from the command and control and to trust the teams. My recommendation here would be to start small. It's the same way as in product we do the MVPs. Do it the same way. If you have multiple teams, let's say 10, let the other 8 or let the other 9 continue working in the feature team setup and do the experimentation with 1 or 2 teams, your strongest teams, to work in the product-led organization, in the product teams. Once you have the outcomes, once you have the results, that will create the trust of the management towards the new system that is working well, that this way the product teams are able to deliver the same results as well as the management, or even better. And once you gain the trust, that's the shifting point. That's the transition point. Then you will be able to transform also the other teams as well. So take your time, definitely. It doesn't come in 1 second from day 1 to day 2. It takes time, it takes a lot of efforts, and you need the great people for that. However, it is worth it, because all the great products we use and love, those organizations are really working with the product teams instead of the feature teams. And I've got inspired for today's speech by those 3 books, which I will be recommending to you as well. And I really hope you found this session helpful, and you will have several takeaways, and you have a better understanding of where do you sit exactly in your organization if you are working in a product or a feature team. So thank you for being here. Thanks for the support, and I'm willing to take your questions now.
Thank you so much. We can take a seat and I can take some questions from the audience. I'm sure there's absolutely tons. So it was really interesting listening to both you, Ashley, and Adrian speak today about the importance of having a coach, so someone that can really advocate and champion you. And you also spoke about that could be somebody inside your organization, but also somebody outside. And we've had a few questions about how do you actually identify who could be a brilliant coach for you, and then how do you go about actually reaching out to them and securing them as well?
Mm-hmm. So very, very important and very interesting question. Generally, I would not recommend to go with your direct line manager because with this person you have to discuss also a lot of operational things. I would really recommend to go and to find someone from whom you got also inspired yourself in your organization. And take the chance to understand how also those coaching sessions are running, and be very honest. Set the certain goals, what you want to achieve, so that the coach will also have a clear understanding where they have to help you. And it's also, then it goes like that, right? So it's really difficult to say if the click will happen or not. However, try your best. Also ask the people that already went through it and who had a coach and could recommend it. It's similar like if you book a hotel and you read recommendations, right? So asking your friends and your colleagues, the ones who already had a one and could recommend, could be another scenario. But one thing, just to close this up, make sure you really put certain goals, what things you want to improve, and only then go and refer to a coach with those problems that you want to solve.
Amazing, thank you so much. There was lots from the audience there, so I'm sure we can all go away and have a think about how to do that next. Someone's actually asked if you could repeat the classification of roles according to risks of a product.
Repeat those?
Yes.
So there are the 4 risks. There is the value risk, is about if the users will be using our end product, will they be able to pay for those, and will they recommend it? The second risk is about the usability. Is it simple and intuitive to use? The third one is about the feasibility, if we're able to deliver the product with our technological stack, with the time and with the resources we have available. And then there is the 4th risk about the viability risk. Like, is it compliant? Is it okay with the latest, for example, GDPR law? And many more. So making sure that it's viable from different aspects of the company and of the organization.
Amazing. We've also had another question from Helen. So how do you measure which team feature or product is performing better?
I mean, there is certainly a good way to measure them, and that's through the metrics, right? Every time you have a feature or a product that is going live, make sure you have appropriate tracking requirements, and you measure certain criteria of that product, the core metrics, and that will show you like the data. The data is there to show you exactly if your product and feature is performing as expected or not. And that's the way to go. Trust the data.
And there's been one more question. This one I'm not sure who it's from, but how do you actually deal with failure or performance issues within product teams?
Failure performance?
Yeah.
I would say don't be afraid of failing. Like even if we compare it with a child who starts to walk, they fall many times, right? It's also important. Sometimes we fail, and sometimes the decisions we make, we also iterate on that and get it better. Also, a lot of famous organizations had their failure products, and it's not about punishing the people. It's a learning. Take your learnings, reflect on that. Don't repeat it in the future, but failure is part of the game. You need to experiment, like you do a lot of A/B testing, right? I certainly believe. And not every A/B test results into the future product, right? And therefore it is there. Experiment a lot, have also your failures, but take the learnings and reflect on that.
Wonderful. And one more from Kathy. So how do you actually convince company leaders that you're working in feature teams when they are convinced that you are actually working in a product team?
I mean, it's maybe as simple as those 4 questions I read. Maybe simply go to the management and ask those 4 questions to your management to realize and to understand if you're working in a product or a feature team. It's not only about the titles of the people, right? It's really giving them the freedom to create really innovative and great products. It's all about that. So it's not about saying, it's about doing.
And we'll take one more, and then we can kind of pause for a bit of a break. But what advice do you have for developers in feature teams that currently don't feel like they have the scope to change the team into a product team?
Try to start from the triangle, because those triangles are your best peers. So talk to your product managers and talk to your product designers, and as a trio, try to make it happen. Like, make really sure every time you get a requirement, also challenge that requirement. Why is it there? What problem does it solve? Why can't we talk to the end customer together? Why can't we do the discovery together? Because in reality, the discovery should be done in the trial. So please start with a smaller scope, talking to your peers and really making sure that you get out of the zone of only coding, but rather also bringing your insights to the future product development. And once you convince those, then you will go forward and convince others. However, I would start with your peers first.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for your questions, and thank you so much to Sona for fantastic discussion.
Thank you, amazing.